What's going on, everybody? Yeah, just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, I wanted to talk about some kind of mindsets that I've been kind of working on, and I find them to be helpful. And hopefully it's helpful for you too. It has to do with letting go of a lot of these beliefs and separation when it comes to achieving different things, and or kind of pushing what you actually want away from you instead of like embracing it and like really just vibing in the space of already achieving it. It's only ever now, so it's getting out of the mindset of like the future contains what you want versus realizing that through vibing in the state of consciousness first, it almost draws it to you, and how it plays out. It's almost like you don't realize it till after, and you kind of like look back and you see how the how everything kind of flowed together in this almost just natural way that if you weren't paying attention to it, it could probably have just slipped past without being grateful for the experience, or any of these kind of attributes of like joy, peace, feeling like you're connected, and so I wanted to kind of bring that to your awareness to really start kind of more so each day vibing in the person that you want to be. How would you feel if your dreams were already an established reality? It's like it's so often it's like we can play the what if game of like, oh, what if my business was super successful, or even if your business is successful, it's like you define what success means to you, and actually you do that with God. But as you're doing that, it's like your definition of success, changes as you achieve these different milestones. But where we can almost start to get stuck in these cycles is where you're chasing the outside instead of resonating from within first. So it's like money is a good example, where it's like, oh, if I just had $100,000 a year, if I only had $200,000 a year, then I could be happy. Oh, if it's just $1,000,000 a year, then I could be happy. Oh, if it's just the insanity of like the egoic consciousness is it's never satisfied with what it has. It's always in the future, then I can feel a certain way, but right now I'm just going to feel suffering and fear until then. And it's like so much of a mindset, especially if you're like an entrepreneur, or just like moving in that direction where you want to kind of take more charge of kind of where your money's coming from, and even if you do have like a job, you can implement all of these same kind of mindsets. One of the probably best ones, I don't know if you want to, like this is the best and this is the worst, but one of the most helpful ones that I've experienced is when it comes to like abundance is realizing that abundance wants you just as much as you want it. But when you kind of change that mindset of it wants you, it puts the power back on the inner instead of the outer. It's like where in the past, we just chase these external rewards, and it's almost like, well, this was so hard to achieve, and it's almost like the act of wanting, makes a big statement that that's not who you are, because you want it, and it pushes it away, and switching that mindset to it wants me, then all of a sudden now it's starting to draw it to you again instead of pushing it away. And you can fill in the blank with anything. It's easy for maybe others to like maybe start judging, be like, well, now he wants all this blah blah blah. It's like you can do the same thing for love. It's like instead of like I want love, I want to be loved, and I want people to love me, and I just want to be happy, I want to feel good. I just all these things we tell ourselves. A lot of times when you say I want to be happy, that's saying that you're not happy. And so a lot of times when you say, hey, you're blessed right now, you're happy, happiness is who you are, well then the programming of and conditioning of the mind starts to say, well, no, that's not true because of this, and I'm going to start recreating traumas from the past to show and justify why I can't be happy right now. instead, what's more helpful is to go, well, happiness wants me. I'm preventing the happiness because of these limiting beliefs and these assumptions and these this programming that's telling me, well, I can't be happy right now because fill in the blank. There's so many excuses that we tell ourselves. Oh, because I'm a victim. I can't be free if I'm a victim. It's like so much of these programs and these conditionings that we tell ourselves. You gotta really just brick by brick, thought by thought, really start to either, most of it's just letting shit go. Majority of the time it's just, yeah, but there's also an understanding that comes to as you're kind of progressing the spiritual walk, that is almost like the remedy to fear is understanding and wisdom, and faith ultimately. But the more that you start to see it in your own experience, the more that you know it as knowledge, which is through experience, your own experience, not so much like the experience of others. So I encourage you to test these things for yourself and implement these things, because you'll see in yourself that this works for me, and it's going to work for you too. It's just a matter of letting go of a lot of these this consciousness of just maybe suffering or fill in the blank, whatever state of consciousness you may fall or drift into. That's all temporary. Part of like recognizing it faster and faster in the moment is just to live one day at a time. It's like, it doesn't matter what tomorrow is going to bring. It doesn't matter what even happened yesterday. It doesn't even matter really what happened 10 minutes ago. If you're kind of practice these things more and more of letting the mental chatter, so you can observe it. It's like almost like, think of it like the ocean. It's like, well, there's a wave. Oh, okay. Creating that space so that you don't start all of a sudden becoming caught up in your head, drifting. And it's easy to say that, but then at other times it can be more difficult to just like, how long am I going to waste my life, which is now in my head spinning out about something that really doesn't matter anymore. Maybe a 5-second interaction, and now what, 2 hours of clock time I'm in my head, pissed off, arguing with somebody. It's like you can almost just get on like social media anymore and just be pissed off at people that you don't even know. It more than likely could be robots. It's like, how long am I going to be triggered by maybe something that is programmed AI bullshit? It's like really catching yourself and the patterns that you do daily, and not blaming the outer, for why you experience these different things, but really taking again ownership and just going, okay, well, this isn't maybe an illusion that I'm seeing. That's fine. I'm not going to get caught up in my head about it. I'm going to choose to be joyful, even though I'm seeing something that more than likely can be defined as an illusion, something that's not real. And ultimately fear in itself is an illusion. So, when you start really feeling the fear, that's the tension, we all know what that feels like. It's in the relative world, it's who we're not. And so when you start to feel fear, that should be a good sign to yourself to stop and go, oh, I'm experiencing an illusion right now. Because now I feel fear, I feel separation, I feel an us versus them creeping in. I feel maybe superior to the they that I'm experiencing. All these types of triggers, and instead of getting carried away and spinning out in that kind of mindset, you can if you want to. It's not going to sit here and judge you if you do, but a lot of times if you drift into these states of consciousness unknowingly, that's the problem. It's like, if you want to feel that way knowingly, go for it. Experience that. You want to feel anger, you want to be pissed off for some reason, you're ultimately just doing it to yourself. So have at it. But the problem starts to become more and more of the unconscious drifting into these patterns, and now all of a sudden you're just dealing with it. It's like, okay, well, I must have drifted into depression all of a sudden, because now I just see a bunch of sad, depressing things. I just have a lack of wanting to do anything. Just want to just be left alone, and not create, and I just want to just sit in a cave. And there's nothing wrong with that either. It's all relative to your own experience. Some people, there's a Bob Dylan quote that's like, a success is a person that gets up in the morning and goes to bed at night, and in between does what the fuck they want to do. It doesn't really, the labels that we put on making it, or success. It's all stuff we tell ourselves. So start telling yourself some happier things. Start seeing, instead of I made this goal, but then you see somebody else. Now maybe you're playing like guitar or something, and it's easy to see where it's like, oh, I've been practicing these scales, or I've been practicing this key, and I feel like I'm really just nailing it. And then you feel good about it, and then maybe you record it, and it's like, oh fuck yeah, it sounds cool, and whatever. But then immediately followed by seeing somebody like way better, and then you feel like I don't know, shame. I don't think shame's the right word, but then you just feel like, oh, your bubble gets popped. Maybe that feeling. But even seeing that in a new light of like, that's not meant to like discourage you, but actually encourage you, because now you see a new mountaintop. It's like, man, that dude's put in a lot of practice and time, and you see it especially when you try to break into something totally new. Where it's like you might be awesome at like tapping or shredding, or just your rhythm is really good, but then you come across somebody who's like really good at like finger picking, like a finger style. And even in that, there's its own little subgroups where it's like, oh, that guy's got really, really good thumb control over the bass of that kind of groove with his guitar. And, the more that you just get involved in these different things and creating ultimately, because ultimately I feel like creating anything is a heavenly thing to do. You bring something from the imagination into physical reality, and part of like mastery is being able to get better and better at taking what you imagine and bringing it into reality exactly the way you want it, exactly the sound you want. Like if in music, you get that when you first start producing, trying to get that mix to sit right, and just like you have it in your mind how you want it to sound, but then the frustration comes when you try to bring it into reality. It's like, why does this sound so off, compared to what's in my mind? Why is this not right? And it's like the more you practice these different techniques, the more that you're able to go from your imagination, which you were, I don't know how, you were talking about intangible thing. You're talking about consciousness. It's like you have it in consciousness, how you see it, how you hear it, how you interact with it, and you just want to bring it in. And it doesn't even have to be music. I've been watching Forged in Fire, which I actually have like kind of a weird relationship with that show, because through music licensing, that was one of the last carrots, speaking from personal experience, going on these cycles of chasing just spinning around the rabbit or hamster wheel, basically, chasing these external rewards, that, oh, if I just got a better placement, then I could be happy. Then I'll feel like I made it. If I only, and one of my, if I only had with music, licensing was, if I only had some music license in a show my family actually watches and likes, then I'll feel good, and then I'll be happy with my career path. Because like the thing I experience a lot of with like music is like doing that, it's like, you tell people what you do for like your job, and that just like that normal flow of conversation, like, oh, what are you into, what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm a music producer. I get these looks all the time of like people like, oh, so you're unemployed. That was always like kind of the flow. And so I always kind of felt like I had to prove something. and like not only for like myself, but just like prove it to others. Like you want in that external validation, and so it's like, okay, well, you keep getting that, and it comes back, and then it's like, oh, that was satisfying, but I don't feel like I don't feel any different. But like maybe next time, maybe if I get something bigger and better, then I'll feel different, and keep chasing that and chasing that. And with that Forged in Fire show, that was no different. I ended up getting some music in that show, and my family, my stepdaughters, they like watching that show at their dad's house. And when I told them about it, yeah, they were excited, or like, oh, that's neat. But then it was the same thing as far as I'm concerned. It was just like a temporary, oh, neat, and back to the normal. And it's like, well, okay, I need to figure out how to be happy, or I need to stop chasing these things. And it all works together for the good ultimately. But I never actually watched that show. I ended up watching that show just to hear my music in it, because I just wanted to make sure it was in there, because I seen it on a my royalty check, my statement from BMI. And like I just wanted to see where it was at in the show and whatnot. So I just kind of scrolled through it, and I found it, and just to make sure it was actually in there. And and I never watched the show until last night. I started watching it on Hulu, and I was just like binge watching. I ended up watching like 6 episodes or something, just because I really enjoyed watching the craftsmanship of people like making swords and like blacksmithing and shit. It was like awesome to me. It made me want to go make a sword. It's like, geez, I had a vehicle just got rid of. It had some leaf springs. I could have tore them out. I could have just started making a katana or something. It was inspiring. It's inspiring to me to watch people that are like really good at taking that imagine, because you got to envision it in your mind first before you bring it into reality. And there's so many times where you see it, whether it's, oh, that person's really good at an instrument, or that person's really good at blacksmithing, or that person's really good at cooking. I like watching Gordon Ramsay cook too, just because he's just so, you can tell like the passion. He's able to people are passionate about different things. But I enjoy that. I like watching people that are able to do that, and I know that that's for everybody, and everybody has that type of drive in them, and to achieve these different things. There's so much of like the mental mindsets that they've had to overcome in their walk, even though they may not know that they're on the walk. And that's part of it too. It's like I used to not really I used to be kind of confused about like maybe people that are physically like sporty or something like that. It's like you listen to them, and it's like they got a lot of positive mindsets, and you can see that if you're like Iron Man type shit, or like a Marine, Navy SEAL type, just really pushing the limits of what your body can do, and doing marathons and shit. And like I've grown to respect that a lot, just because I almost feel like when you're physically active like that, it's like your body's, it's like a meditation for your body. It's you work out a lot of these mental programs through working the body out. And so there's a lot of wisdom that can be learned through people that have moved in that direction. But realizing that everybody's on this walk, and that there's like none of us that's really superior to others. It's just different facets of the same thing. It's almost like a fractal. And when it has to do with like starting a business, it's just a different perspective of the same fractal. But so much of it again is just mindsets and mindsets and mindsets, and really working on improving your now by how well is your state of consciousness right now. Is it filled with a lot of fear, or is it filled with a lot more love? Is your first thoughts about a thing that a fearful reaction, or is it more of a creation mode, where it's like you see the heavens starting to be more and more manifest in your bubble? You can experience both. It's your choice. Do you want to sit and stare at the news and just be freaked out and then pissed off at others for not being freaked out like you're freaked out, or you're just going to stop watching that shit because, every state exists. You breathe life into it with your attention. And so are you going to continue to breathe more life into darkness? Or are you going to move in a new direction and start breathing more and more heaven for everybody in your space and yourself? And ultimately, as you do it in yourself first, everybody else starts to mirror that change anyway. So if you're spinning out in like a satanic Truman Show, where now it feels like everything is just horrible and you're in like a hell, and like I've had people actually say to me, it's like, oh, no, we're in hell. This is hell. It's like, what is? You need to talk to Jesus, and like get your shit figured out, because this is not that get it figured out within, because it's the fear that you're in, and nothing other than that. And what relieves the fear is the faith. And the more that you really go on a spiritual thing, the more you start seeing God everywhere and in everything, and you start seeing more and more oneness. And that's what I've experienced, and so, telling people is like, you're part of the oneness, you're part of the all, and nothing is impossible for you. The only limits you have is in your own mind, but there is no limit to what is possible, what can be achieved, because it's God within you that's doing it. This is almost like a total flip in what was to what is now. Everything is new, and if you're recreating the past and recreating the past definitions of events, circumstances, people, anything, you're bringing that into the now. So instead of sitting there bringing trauma and pain and fear, torment, and all this other bullshit into the now, recognize that in itself is the issue, and choose different. Instead of going, oh well, I just seen something on the news, even though I say I don't like watching the news and I know it's not real and it's toxic. Oh, but I'm still going to dial into the talking points today. Regardless of where it's coming from. It's like, oh, I don't, if you're in the United States, it's like, oh, well, I don't watch CNN because it's this and that and this, but, I'll be glued to Fox News 24/7. Or, then you have, well, Fox News is complete fake news, and so is CNN, but I'm going to sit here and just going to go down the same talking points from a different perspective on Alex Jones's news source, InfoWars, and I'm going to just spin out in that direction. And it's like, oh, well, I don't watch InfoWars or Fox News or CNN because they're all part of the same little game, but I watch blah, 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 and we talk about the same talking points from a different perspective. It's like, stop paying attention to the talking points. None of that shit matters. It's just let that go. And watch how your life starts to just change for the better. Watch how your state of consciousness starts to change for the better as you're just not inundating your mental diet with horse shit. Fill it with creating heaven. Fill it with, watch, if you're watching, the story of the world more than you're going within, connecting with God and the Holy Spirit and Jesus and all these heavenly things, what do you expect? What do you expect to experience? Get over the fears, by growing your faith, and as you do, you start to become more and more conscious of the fact that what you actually want, what you want to see is you want to see loving things. You want to see heavenly things. You don't want to be seeing satanic Truman Show things, where everything, it seems like evil and possessed and just dark and full of fear and separation and everything else. It's like what you actually want is to be experiencing loving things, loving interactions with people. And when you change the mindset of, those loving things want you. You are putting up the wall of fear and separation yourself. It's as soon as you start making that connection more and more so, that these inner beliefs, that these assumptions, that these this consciousness of separation is the problem, the easier it is to let it go and drop it and to go, I don't actually even have a problem. It's like what I want wants me. I want love, and love wants me back. Actually, more so, but it's me that's pushing it away by just not just resonating in it right now, by not choosing it right now. Your life starts to change in a better direction. And not only for yourself, but then you start seeing that change in the people around you. As you start resonating in higher states of consciousness. Another way to say that is less and less fear. As you're vibing in less and less fear, you start seeing people differently. You start interacting with people differently. You start seeing your circumstances differently. Because it's not tomorrow when you experience these things being different. You experience it right now being different. It's like, how much can you bring love, joy, and peace into your right now, because it's already there. What you want is that love, joy, and peace. It wants you back. It wants you. God said you're already blessed now. The problem is, we just don't believe it. And the more you do start to believe it, though, and let go of this this consciousness of that can't be real. You let that go, and you start seeing it become more and more real through experience as you test it for yourself. Because whatever you believe. Well, how do I say that? It's like anything that you're desiring in your heart, you already have it. It's like, well, I just want to be free, and I just want to be happy. I just want to be healthy. I just want to be safe. I just want to be. It's like you are already those things. That those things want you. And you resonate in that now. That is already who you are. Connect with it right now internally. Maybe just peace. Pick one. If it starts to become too many complexities, just break it down. It's like, am I feeling fear? Which what that is. What that feels like. You may not know what love is. That's okay too. We're going to define this thing as we go on, and until then, as the definition evolves, you just know it's not that. You just know, I know what fear is because I just was born into that, the whole kind of identity. That's not who I am anymore. So that's a good enough starting spot for me. It's like, I feel what I'm not, so I'm going to change directions now and let that go and see whatever starts to manifest inside me or around me or any of these types of things, and be open to the new. And then also, you're not alone. So ask for help, ask for guidance within. Ask Jesus. It's like, hey, what do I make of this? It's like my ego, thinks that this is what it is. The ego thinks it knows everything about, everything that's happening. The ego's got a nice little label to slap on it. A lot of times it's a fear label. That's going to try to keep you safe from this perceived threat from the they. Excluding yourself from the connectedness of everything. And, it's like, it couldn't possibly be my fault. I'm perfect. And you are perfect. That's the thing. It's like the ego, but the problem is, like, you're perfect and everything else is flawed. In the ego's kind of definition. It's like, well, you got the superior, me, then looking out into creation, seeing everything just being flawed, and not as good, as, and it's different for everybody, how this consciousness starts to try to, play its little games. But just let go of that and just realize, everything that God said about me and you go within. Let the Spirit tell you what these things are. If I can point you any positive direction, it's within. But with that being said, I think I'm gonna balance. I got some things I want to kind of work on today. I just finally got my wife's Christmas present in the mail, which I've been waiting on for Yeah, it's supposed to be in like a week ago, but it just now got it, and like I'm excited to get that to her. And so yeah, other than that, I just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention. Just this concept of what you want once you. I was watching. Yeah, it's a really nice channel. I like to watch it. I think he's a consultant, uh, and works with entrepreneurs. So if you're in that kind of state, where you're looking for maybe some consulting guidance, if you're an entrepreneur, let me share this guy's channel with you guys. Joseph Rodrigues. Link is in the description. But he just put a video out the other day, a couple days ago. Dollars Want Me by Henry Harrison Brown. I think it was like a little book or something, and it was kind of a eureka light bulb moment. And so much of what we're doing for each other is giving these little eureka. I didn't know I needed to know that, but now I got clarity on something moments. And that was like a eureka moment for me, is like how much I was like pushing things away by wanting it too much. And by wanting it too much, basically saying is like, well, I'm not that because I want this over here. I mean, if you're full, if you just like ate a big feast, you just like, oh, I just really want some good steak. I just really want some good steak. If your mind says, I just really want that, it means that you're hungry and you haven't ate it yet. But if you're more of like, how would you feel, knowing that the steak is already here, it's come, is today, I'm going to get it, and it wants me. It's just like a different way of thinking about things, and in a way of thinking about things that doesn't really involve wanting and fear, but like kind of a more excited expectancy. As you start seeing it start to be, through synchronicities, these bridges of incidents becoming more and more manifest in your bubble, in your life, in your perspective, in your whatever you want to call these labels. It starts to be brought more and more into the now. And then you walk into it. It's like you connect with the state of consciousness first, and then there's maybe some limiting beliefs that come up along the way. Recognize that this pattern over and over again. It's like, okay, well, I changed my my inner state. Now I got all this programming that's starting to bubble up. Just let it go, let it go, let it go, and as you do, and as you just hold true to the invisible, the faith, the spiritual, then all of a sudden, it just starts to become your what you're dealing with, your bubble. It starts to be brought in, and it's awesome. It's really awesome, and it's for everybody to do. So you want to share that as much as you can with others, so that they can do it too. Because it's for everybody, literally everybody, to follow their dreams and to live this amazing new life. And it's the gift of God, basically. It's like whether or not you want to accept it or not. It's like I think I'd rather just be stuck in fear and torment and make myself miserable. Whatever, however long you want to spend on that hamster wheel, before you just drop the toxic mindsets that are poisoning your consciousness. But whatever. So I like to wrap these things up too, with quote unquote random, Bible verse. Nothing's random. God's 100% in control of literally everything, and speaks to us in the moment. I just want to give God a chance to speak to you, who's ever listening now. Let's see what he's got to say. Genesis 2:9-15. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food, and the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. There you go. And, with that said, I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all the social networking things. And I appreciate the, just, the positive thoughts in your own mind. I appreciate, you giving me the time of day. And I appreciate you, giving me your attention for this long. I'll try to be a good steward of that. With that being said, thanks everybody for listening, and have a good rest of your now, and God bless.